Jetzt haben wir Bett von England, unser Choshev Gast, Herr Rav Rebbetzin Zalmon, Jaffe, was sehr Choshev an Rebben soll gesund sein, und sagen, als warme Wörter, als den ganzen Knack, als auflebende Melon.
Thank you.
No vergessen sagen, nachher, Chaviv.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Rabbi Lapkovsky. You're the Rosh Hashanah and are now in charge of the Kinus Torah. I wish you many happy years to take charge of the Kinus Torah and to invite me to speak. I shall speak to you in English. I hope you will be all able to understand. Because last year I had a very peculiar experience. I went through Kahan's, the grocer, and I saw Beryl and asked him for a packet of matzah. He said I was very lucky because he had just the one packet left, and he handed me a packet of tissues, napkins. I think these were called matzahs or something. I said, I want matzahs to eat, not to wipe my nose and face. He requested me to go to the counter, and there I was handed a box of matches. Believe me, I nearly went on strike. They're playing with fire. I was really annoyed, and again repeated and shouted that I want matzahs, matzahs, matzahs. Oh, you want your grandson matzah? He has just seen passing the shop. So I hope you won't get mixed up with the words I'm going to speak to tonight and understand what I'm saying. 8 years ago, I presented the Rebbe Schlitter with my book, My Encounter with the Rebbe Schlitter, number 13. The Rebbe pointed out at that time that although this is the Bar Mitzvah edition, the real majority is 20, as stated in Bar Midbar, chapter 1, verse 3. This Shavuos, I handed the Rebbe number 20 and asked the Rebbe what I should do now. The Rebbe replied within an hour and said, about your future writings, when you reach number 31, we will talk further about this matter. There are so many wonderful implications in this bracha, which make this the penultimate, the best of all the brachas that one can receive. For the past 20 years or so, one of the highlights of our visits to 770 used to be our visit to the Rebbetzin, Zachrena Devrocha. We miss her terribly, and I would like now to read a few of the stories which I had written about the Rebbetzin during the past number of years. She was a very good friend of ours, kind, considerate, cheerful, and gracious. Being the daughter of the previous Rebbe, she had plenty of yichus of her own, and yet her whole life and being were bound up with the Rebbe. She was a perfect wife, ideal companion, and worthy advisor, and shared his problems, heartaches, and successes. She always referred to the Rebbe as my husband, and they often communicated with each other in Russian. I once asked whether the Rebbe disturbed her when he arrived home from 770 at about 4:30 in the morning after Kinus Torah and so on. She replied, oh no, I always wait up for the Rebbe. She shunned publicity, and when the new Hebrew-English Tanya was first published, an official delegation wished to present her with a specially bound edition. She refused point blank to receive any delegation and maintained she would be more than happy to accept this just from Rosin and me. It was only after a lot of persuasion and some little bullying from me that she acceded to our suggestion to receive just a very small delegation. The Rebbetzin was always very pleased to see us, although she had insisted that we should visit her any time, even without notice. We never took advantage of this open invitation. We always telephoned first in order to arrange a suitable time for her. For example, we never have been present at 1304 whilst the Rebbe was there too. Sometimes, after we had been enjoying the company of the Rebbetzin for about 2 hours or so, the telephone would ring. Sholem would answer it, then whisper something to the Rebbetzin. From past experience, we realized that this phone call was a signal that the Rebbe would be returning home in a very short time. So we immediately made our apologies to the Rebbetzin and prepared to leave, in spite of a strong protest that there was no need for us to rush away. She also indicated that surely we had better things to do and to see during the short time we spent at Crown Heights than to visit her. Sharon Gansberg once told us that the Rebbetzin had confided to him that she enjoyed our company tremendously because she did not have to make conversation. She could just sit back, relax, and enjoy herself. She spoke to us always in perfect English with a slight American accent. I once informed her that I had received complaints from some people whom I had mentioned in my book, and the Rebbetzin retorted with this very profound saying. She said, "All those who you mention in your book are annoyed, but those who you do not mention are insulted." She was a wonderful intermediary for us with the Rebbe. It was so simple and useful to contact her when we needed a quick reply to any queries. For example, when I returned from hospital recently, that was last year, I wanted permission to travel to London for a bris. The doctors had refused to grant me this request. Therefore, I phoned as usual to 770 and discussed the matter with Benjamin Klein. He promised to inform me next morning, Friday at 9:30, what the Rebbe's advice was. Next morning, 9:30, no phone call. 10 o'clock, still no phone call. And this was New York time, and it was through Shavuos in Manchester. So I tried to phone 770. Anyone who has tried to phone 770 on any morning will know how impossible it is to get through. Friday is even worse. After half an hour, I gave up. So I phoned the Rebbetzin, got through straight away, told her of my predicament, and within just a few minutes, Benjamin Klein was on the line from 770 with the Rebbe's reply, which was, "The Shulchan Aruch states that one must carry out the instructions of the doctor, no matter how well one did feel." A few years ago, the Rebbe had given out an order that no one would be allowed to visit 770 for the Rebbe's 80th birthday. Quite definite. No one. So again, I phoned the Rebbetzin. She said, "Oh, Mr. Jaffe, this does not refer to you. The Rebbe always looks forward to seeing you." Benjamin Klein only told me recently that the Rebbetzin had phoned him to inform the Rebbe that, thank God, he has come home from hospital, and Baruch Hashem, he is fit and well. Benjamin said, "Who is it?" Never mind, said the Rebbetzin. Just give this message to the Rebbe. Yes, but who is it? Almost screamed Binyamin. Okay, then, it is Zalmon. I'd just come out of the hospital. I said to her, it is very good when one receives the brachas from the Rebbe. She replied that other people besides the Rebbe were praying on your behalf and wishing you a speedy and complete recovery. That was a really nice thing to say and such a comforting thought. The Rebbe is going to hurry tough and likes the extreme cold. The Rebbetzin, however, loves the heat. So the Rebbe has his work study in a separate room upstairs. On our frequent visits to her home or at the library, where a small compact apartment has been constructed at the rear, we invariably took with us some of our grandchildren. We entered the dining room of 1304, where we found the Rebbetzin awaiting our arrival. This was the usual routine. She would be seated at the side of a rectangular table. Rosin would sit opposite to her, and I near the Rebbetzin. The Rebbe's chair was at the top of the table and was always left vacant. The tablecloth was white and spotless, except once when Shmuel, my Adim, knocked over a bottle of raspberry soda, and the cloth became red, and Shmuel's face became white. Set upon it were cups and saucers and so forth, fruit, cake, and special goodies for the young children, ice cream, soda and sweets, and occasionally we enjoyed chocolate truffles, which were also favorites of the Rebbe. Each of the children then entertained us with songs or words of Torah. After about an hour, they left, and we carried on chatting for a couple of hours or so. We then served with Russian tea. The Rebbetzin never touched her tea. She admitted only recently that she did not like tea, but she thought that all English people drank only tea. So she was very sociable and joined us. Well, we were also not too fond of Russian tea either. We have milk with our tea at home. She had many lovely silver candlesticks and menorahs, but she bench licht on the brass candlesticks which her mother had used and which she had brought over from Russia. Someone asked her whether I could discover if she bench licht with oil. Obviously, she used only candles. The Rebbe always went home or to the library just before Shavuos or Yontov, and normally spent about 20 minutes or so with the Rebbetzin before he changed to 770. Until 18 years ago, the Rebbe would invite about a dozen specially selected men to join him at all Yom Tovim meals. These took place upstairs at 770 at the previous Rebbetzin apartment. Neither our Rebbetzin or any other women joined us at these meals. Our Rebbetzin ate together with her mother in the adjoining room. But first of all, the Rebbe alone would go to our table, and just before he started to make Kiddush, the door of the room would be opened slightly ajar. It was the Rebbetzin waiting to hear the Rebbe's Kiddush, which the Rebbe started very, very quietly. After which, the door was closed, and we, the Rebbe's guests, would also make Kiddush ourselves very quietly. Therefore, for the first 20 years since the Rebbe became our leader, he and our Rebbetzin never ate their Yom Tov meals together. However, when the Rebbe's mother passed away, then the Rebbe discontinued these special meals and joined our Rebbetzin for Yom Tov at their own home. It is no small wonder that he states that before a man undertakes to accept a position as a Rebbe, it is essential that he receives permission from his wife first. Before the wedding of Max, to my granddaughter, Leah Jaffe. We were at the home of the Rebbetzin. Max had begged me to ask the Rebbetzin for a gift of one of the Rebbe's shirts, which he, as a chassan, would like to wear under the chuppah. She acceded to this request and told me to call for this on the following day. Before I left to collect this treasure, I told the large assembly of our grandchildren who was gathered at our apartment that they should all realize and understand that this garment would belong to us and would become a family heirloom. Well, the howls of protest and arguments that followed this statement were just too terrible. How could I even contemplate to appropriate something that should be given to Max? To put it very mildly indeed, I was not behaving very nicely. To be fair, Max did not enter into this argument. Nevertheless, the anguished look on his face told its own story. It was terrible to behold. It was very embarrassing for me, and I even considered cancelling this visit to the Rebbetzin. However, this would really be a shame, like cutting off one's nose to spite one's face. And off I went to the Rebbetzin. A short while later, I returned with 2 shirts. I had explained my difficult predicament to the Rebbetzin, who had remarked, "Don't worry, Mr. Jaffe, this is no problem. I will simply give you another shirt for your family heirloom when next time you come to Crown Heights." I intimated I would rather take it now if it was not too much trouble for the Rebbetzin. The Rebbetzin asked Sholem to go upstairs to bring down another shirt of the Rebbe's. Sholem indicated that he was flabbergasted to see such chutzpah, but I certainly achieved what I wanted. And that is what I call a very considerate friend, the Rebbetzin. I've got more time yet. A few months ago, Max and Leah visited the Rebbetzin with our great-grandchildren, Moshe, aged 1.5, and Torah. The Rebbetzin said to Moshe, "Come to Doda and play on Doda's knee." Moshe did so and had a nice play on Doda's knee. What a zechus for a young little boy, and he will remember this, I'm sure, all his life. Every Yontif, we sent her red roses from the Kingston Avenue flower shop, and she always thanked me very profusely. One Shavuos, she thanked me as usual, but we discovered later that the flowers had not been sent on that occasion. My letter, by some mischance, had gone to Australia, and by the time it arrived back at Brooklyn, the Yontif had already gone. So it shows you that she didn't want to obsess us at all and told us that she had to see the flowers. The Rebbe actually had 5 sukkahs, as you know. One at President Street, one in the library, another at the lawn outside 770, a 4th outside the lower large door of 770, and finally the big communal one here. And the one at home was just adjacent to our apartment. And we had to keep reprimanding our children not to make too much noise because we might be disturbing the Rebbe. We couldn't hear what the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin was saying, just a murmur of voices. Now then, all who have visited 770 for the Farbringen will have noticed that the Rebbe's bottle of wine is kept in a brown paper bag. For the Rebbe's birthday, it was suggested that we, Manchester Lubavitch, should present the Rebbe with a beautiful silver decanter for the wine. It was felt that the Rebbe deserved something special for his wine, and not a paper bag. I was commissioned to ask the Rebbetzin whether the Rebbe would accept this gift, as it would be silly to buy something which would not be used. In due course, the Rebbetzin gave me the answer from the Rebbe, that the Rebbe would not use this silver decanter, because if he did, that all the Chassidim would buy silver decanters, even those who could not afford to buy one. Incidentally, this was the same reason why the Rebbe did not use a silver or expensive esrig box. He used a cardboard box, and so do all the Lubavitcher Chassidim. When Chaya, our eldest Lou granddaughter, went to study at the girls' seminary in Crown Heights, the Rebbetzin realized that she might be very lonely at first. So one day she phoned Chaya's apartment and asked to speak to her. The girl who answered the phone wanted to know who was calling, and nearly collapsed when she heard that it was Mrs. Schneerson from President Street. We told the Rebbetzin that some intruders had helped themselves to our bread from our stucky once, and she said, whenever you're short of any chali, Sholem Gansberg will give you as much as you want on our behalf. This is last year. As you heard before, I've been in hospital for a few weeks, and the Rebbetzin had telephoned on many occasions to inquire how I was. Over the past 7 months, we have been speaking to her on the telephone every single Friday at 3:45 our time. She invariably answered the phone herself, as she did not want to waste money by my waiting for her. Every Friday, too, I wrote my usual letter to the Rebbe, who was addressed it to 1304 President Street. That is where we live, said the Rebbetzin. The letter was normally received on Wednesday morning, and my husband would read it when he returned from 7:70 at night. She used one word very extensively. It was unberufen, which meant marvelous, kind and horror. On one occasion, she asked me over the phone how I was. I painted a very rosy picture, but she interrupted me and said, now look, please let me speak to Rosalind. She was so astute. She didn't believe a word I said. On the Friday before the fatal Wednesday, we spoke to her as usual, and her last words were, thank you for calling. It was lovely speaking to you and to Rosalind, and I shall look forward to our chat next week, please God. We have suffered a very severe blow, and we shall always miss her. But obviously, the one who misses her the most is our Rebbe Schlitter. It is very lonely at the top, all by oneself. And life goes on in spite of personal sorrows and even public tragedies. The Rebbe has set an outstanding example of how a great personality, who is constantly in the public eye, displays disciplined dignity and a congenial countenance, no matter how much he is suffering in private. Every week, the Rebbe had continued to broadcast sichos from 1304. People have never stopped writing to the Rebbe with all their problems, and even more important, boys and girls were continuously asking the Rebbe for his advice and guidance regarding their projected shidduchim. Then afterwards, for a special bracha for their happiness and success. Yet, even during those difficult and trying moments, the Rebbe still found the time to send me a letter on the occasion of my birthday on the 7th of Adar. Thank God I write to the Rebbe every Friday continuously, and if I do get a letter, it is a bonus, a real yontif for me. Now, in conclusion, I would like to say, I thank you for listening to me, of course, and I would like you all to give the Rebbe nachas. Write to the Rebbe often good news. Don't be a tzoros chosros. Be a happy face. Show him a happy face and a smiling face. Make the Rebbe happy. Show him that you all care. Thank you very much.
Gracie, Ashakeach, Harav, Reb Shneir Zalmon, Jaffe. Und der Rebbe soll helfen, sein gesund. Die Brajo noch einmal kommen und uns behandeln sein mit Geschmack, Wörter.